Jaya Someone help me with that word. Savatnam Vijiki Samano Viheshu Vishayate Purvam Adyati Durga Srita Urjitarin Jineshu Kamam Vichare Tapasthit having nothing to do with the material world, practically speaking, living alone. He had decided not to adopt or to become the king of the world, and rather he decided to renounce the world, and he allowed his younger brother, whose name was Uttanapada, who is especially famous because of his glorious son, whose name was Vrindavan. So Uttanapada had taken up the kingship over the world, and Priyavrata had renounced the world. But then the powerful dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu had ended the lineage of Uttanapada and Dhruva Maharaj, had ended. One powerful person, extremely powerful person, was required to rule the world. And Priyavrata, who had renounced the world already, was asked to take up the post by whom? By Swayambhuva Manu. And then, when he was somewhat reluctant to take up the service, because that would mean ruling the world, most materialists would jump at this chance to rule the world because we think that it would mean I would get just what I wanted at any time I wanted. Unlimited power, unlimited wealth, unlimited armies, enjoyment. But Priyavrata had asked a very important question. If I surrender and take up this service as you have requested me, my dear father, will this somehow or another, or can this somehow or another get in the way of my spiritual life? My spiritual life is everything for me. Millions of years ago, I have decided to renounce material enjoyment. I have rejected the opportunity that I had to take up the kingship, the rulership of the world, and I have sat on the Madhura mountain, and I'm just meditating. My senses are unengaged with the sense objects, and I am meditating on the Supreme Lord. And if I now, as you have requested, take it as my service to rule, can this service get in the way of my spiritual life? This was the question that he asked. I found this question so relevant, so important. So, Swayambhuva had called Lord Brahma, even a greater authority, to try to convince, a greater authority than himself, to try to convince Priyavrata Maharaj to take up rulership. And here is Lord Brahma, the ending of the verse, the next to the last verse, that Lord Brahma is going to speak to Priyavrata to convince him that now you should take up the service. You should do it. You should renounce renunciation. You should renounce renunciation for service to the Lord. But the level of this verse is spoken on, the one we're hearing today. The level that this verse is spoken on is not on the highest level of an answer, but his answer has been on many levels. Brahma's answer to Priyavrata has been on many levels, and this level is not the highest level, but in the next verse, the highest level will be spoken. The actual level where one is completely safe, regardless of how one is serving, because on that level, one takes full shelter of the Supreme Lord. And here they are. Sisi Krishna Balaram Sisi Radha So, on this level, this samano. One who is desiring to conquer the true adversaries. The true, what's another word for adversary? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yes.
Opponent.
Opponent, yes. Another word, still. Enemy. If one wants to conquer one's enemies, because usually we think our enemies are external to us, and they are trying to stop us. Because an enemy, we define as someone who's trying to stop us from doing what we want to do. So, if one is serious about one's spiritual life, these enemies are the only enemies, and they are grouped around the main enemies, as the Advaita Brahma explained. And what is that main enemy? Or practically speaking, the only enemy? Please stand up and say it. Oh, even one level more general. Yes, thank you. Oh, the mind. The mind. The Advaita Brahmana says there is only one cause of misery. There is only one cause of suffering in this world, and that is my mind. Not that my mind is causing everyone else suffering, but it's causing me suffering. My mind. So yasat sapatnan vijagi samano griheshu in household life. Niyavishya, having entered. Yateta, must try. Purvam, first. So upon entering household life, one must at first try something, what he's going to describe now. Adyati. This is for one who is desiring to conquer the actual enemies. Adyati conquers. Durga Asrita. Being in a fortified place. Urjita Arin, very strong enemies. Shineshu, decrease. Kamam, lusty desire. So he's speaking about household life, that the very strong enemies can be conquered if one is Durga Asrita. What does Durga Asrita mean?
In a fortified place.
Yes, in a fortified place. Taking Asrita, taking shelter of Durga, the fort. He's comparing household life to a fort here, where a fort is required to, if strong enemies are attacking, one goes to a fort and closes the doors and stays on the walls. And if one is able to withhold the attack of very strong enemies from within a fort. So he's comparing Griheshu, household life, to Durga Asrita here. Having taken shelter of the fort of household life for the purpose of conquering these very strong enemies, lust, anger, greed, matsarja, rupa, etc. So, as the verse continues, so Chineshu, decrease. So the enemies are decreased. Kama, lusty desire. Vichare, can go. So one can go inside a fort of household life, is explaining, to decrease the lusty desires of the other enemies. And then the final word of the verse, vipaschit, the most experienced learning. So this is the conclusion of those who are learning. So these are instructions on specific level. Now here is Srila Prabhupada's translation. Please listen carefully. One who is situated in household life and who systematically conquers his mind and 5 sense organs, is like a king in his fortress who conquers his powerful enemies. After one has been trained in household life, and his lusty desires decrease, he can move anywhere without danger. So we'll repeat the verse now, and then I'm going to ask that very important question, what do you remember? And then we'll read the purport, the prophet's purport, and we'll ask that same question. So first we'll repeat the verse. One who is situated in household life, and who systematically conquers his mind and 5 sense organs, is like a king in his fortress who conquers his powerful enemies. After one has been trained in household life, and his lusty desires have decreased, he can move anywhere without danger. What do you remember? Please raise your hands.
If upon entering
Just one point.
entering Grihastha ashram, one can decrease his lusty desires and then move without any danger.
One can decrease one's lusty desires and then move anywhere without danger. So here the hint of what the purpose of household life is to decrease one's material involvement, not to increase, but to decrease. Anyone else remember anything from the verse? Yes? Just specifically from the verse. Anyone remember anything from the verse? Yes, Paul.
One needs to be trained.
Yes, exactly. After one has been trained in household life. So household life is the training for the purpose of decreasing one's physical, mental involvement in material sense enjoyment. You forgot to raise your hand. Now we have a special corner for those who don't raise their hands. But yes, of course. Raise your hand. Thank you. I can't help it.
One who conquers his mind and senses.
One who conquers his mind and senses. He is like a king in his fort. The next verse will explain it on a little bit of a different level, but it is like a king in his fort. Because when the king is in his fort, he's well protected. So many important instructions about household life. Thank you. Now we shall read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Please listen carefully, and I'm going to ask, what do you remember? It is not a long purport. The Vedic system of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas, and I got a glimpse of Krishna's expert arrangement from this purport for the speaker, and also his sense of humor also. The Vedic system of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas is very scientific, and its entire purpose is to enable one to control the senses. Before entering household life, Grihastha ashram, a student is fully trained to become Jitendriya. That was your point. Fully trained to become Jitendriya, a conqueror of his senses. Such a mature student is allowed to become a householder, and because he was first trained in conquering his senses, he retires from household life and becomes a vanaprastha as soon as the strong waves of youthful life are past and he reaches the verge of old age at 50 years or slightly more. So, I'm 67 almost. So Krishna is so kind to make these words of Srila Prabhupada come from my mouth into my own ears. Without tweeting Mataji here. Even. Then, after being further trained, he accepts sannyas. He is then a fully learned and renounced person who can move anywhere and everywhere without fear of being captivated by material desires. The senses are considered very powerful enemies. As a king in a strong fortress can conquer powerful enemies, so a grihastha in grihastha ashram, householder life, can conquer the lusty desires of youth and be very secure when he takes vanaprastha and sannyas. What do you remember? Please raise your hand. In the Vedic system,
the four varnas and the four ashrams are scientific in the variable as Shorama.
thank you. Thank you very much. In the Vedic system, the four varnas and the four ashrams are scientifically organized to train us to control our minds, our senses, of course, and then the mind. Because one cannot control the senses without controlling the mind. And one cannot control the mind without controlling the senses. Anyone else raise their hand, please? Please raise your hand if you remember something. A bit of this. Yes, Prabhu. Loudly. A devotee or someone entering the householder ashram in the varnashrama system should be trained in brahmacharya before entering householder life. And what is that training in brahmacharya? What is the brahmacharya training? And what's the control of the senses? And how do you control the senses? Control the mind. And how do you control the mind when you're a student? Fully engaged, but how does one become fully engaged? What's one step before full engagement?
By obedience.
Exactly the point I was thinking. Obedience. Obedience. Because the last thing a conditioned soul wants to do is be obedient. He sees the world as a realm, a sphere, a kshetra, a field of enjoyment. This is the mentality of a conditioned soul. He sees, I am my body, and everything I see is meant for my pleasure. And especially when the senses are strong in one's youth, this is so dominant in the consciousness. And therefore, youthfulness is the time not for enjoyment, as is said in contemporary so-called civilization, not the time to allow one's senses to go wild. Physically, on the internet, walking through all the malls of the world. It is not the time. Youth is not the time for that. This is so because it's scientific. The Varnashrama system is scientific. That means that it's controlled and meant to achieve a specific purpose. And that purpose is to develop one's love for Krishna, prema pramardo mahan. So in brahmachari life, before one becomes self-controlled, in other words, one's intelligence becomes the controller of the mind. Before one can reach that stage where one intelligence controls the mind, one goes through the stage of complete obedience to the teachers, spiritual master, guru. And then gradually that obedience, subservience to the teachers becomes transferred to the authority of the teachers, becomes transferred to the authority of one's intelligence, and that is training. Gradually the authority of obedience, the obedience to one's authority becomes transferred to the persons who are right in front of us, or at that time were so much bigger than us, the kind-hearted teachers, and the guru is transferred to one's own intelligence. And then one can go anywhere in the world because one has the authority of one's intelligence. And what is the intelligence trained to be subservient to? What's the intelligence trained to be subservient to? The Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, Shastra, the books. And the teachers instruct on the basis of the holy books. I am not saying this is what Shastra says. Prabhupada would even say that the strongest statements, this one's a rascal, this one's a rascal, this one's a rascal. Sometimes he would say, I know these are strong words. They are all rascals, but I am not saying. This is what Krishna is saying. This is what Shastra is saying. He was showing his obedience and subservience, that his intelligence was not his own intelligence. Intelligence means the point of discrimination. How do I decide what is good, what is bad, what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is over there when I cannot see it? It is through intelligence. So this is called Shastra. Seeing through the eyes of Shastra, coming through one's intelligence. Nadeki taramurti, to not see the specific forms, external forms of matter, but to see Ishtadeva Spurti, to see Krishna and Krishna's presence everywhere in everything that Shastra explains. Not in an impersonal way, but in the most personal way. Does anyone remember anything else from that purport? From Srila Prabhupada's purport?
It was mentioning that one has to be trained in brahmachari before becoming grihasta, and similarly, there has to be training within grihasta before one attains vanaprastha.
Yes.
One has to have
So
training.
So brahmachari life is the training for grihasta life, and grihasta life is the training for vanaprastha. So this is scientific. And what is sannyasa life? What is the training of sannyasa life? Paratmanishtam. complete dependence on Krishna, and then one can go anywhere, everywhere. So each ashram has its challenges and its gifts and a point of training and a point of achievement. And what's the benefit of being completely dependent on Krishna at every time and every circumstance? What's the benefit? Because I would like to ask a question and then people. What's the benefit of being completely trained and dependent on Krishna every time and circumstance? I mean, what would your life be like if you were completely Krishna conscious? Fearless. By Sharan. Srila Prabhupada, were you with Srila Prabhupada when he was walking by in Calcutta? That time when he saw the devotees with Prabhupada saw the Victoria Memorial? And you were there with Prabhupada, and someone said that when he was young, they were building it, and there was scaffolding around it. And when he was young, he climbed up to the top of it. And were you there? Possibly. Can you tell the story? And so the devotees said, "Oh, Prabhupada, you were fearless because it was so high." And Prabhupada replied, "I still am fearless. Otherwise, how could I have gone to your country alone? No support, no scaffolding. Just dependence on Krishna." And then, what happens when one depends on Krishna fully? And this is what Priyavata ultimately was asking, and we're moving to that point. He said, if I take up this service, and could I get myself into more difficulty by taking up the service and lose my spiritual life? If I'm completely depending on Krishna, can I be placed in a situation where I'm lost? Now if I say yes to that, or I say no, or if I say no, Krishna will always protect you. So you'll listen to me saying it, and it will enter a certain part of your consciousness, and according to the depth of my own realization, that words that no, Krishna will always protect you, he promises it, Name Bhakta Pranashyati, according to the speaker's own depth, that the words will enter into your consciousness to one degree or another, and according to, of course, your receptivity. But if you personally are serving Krishna, and you see Krishna at every step is caring for you, that knowledge will be yours. It will be realization. So that is life's purpose. Because at the time of death, what external aids, what support, or what things will I have that will give me the faith and the security and the fearlessness to hold tightly with my full consciousness to Krishna's lotus feet? What will I have? All the things that I rely on in my life, external things, to influence the world, so I get what I want. So my path becomes smooth and simple and as effortless as I can make it. I use my intelligence, I use my cleverness, I use my influence, I use my beauty, I use it. We use our senses, we use our bodies, we use our intelligence, we use our credit cards, we use the people we know, we use what money we have, we use our friends, we use our family to lean on, to help us move forward when in difficulty. But when we're dying, when the soul is leaving the body, which of those external supports will actually give us the shelter that we need, that we require to hold on to Krishna, his lotus feet? Because the time of death is the most difficult of all times. Obviously, it's the most difficult of all times. And we live our life forgetting that it's going to, that our day is. One famous entrepreneur, American business, computer entrepreneur said, if you live your life as if this day may be your last day in this world, one day you're going to be correct. That's for everyone, not only you, but everyone, from the youngest to the oldest. So life, so that because there's no consciousness of this when one is younger, and the power of illusion, Maya, is so strong, there is such a tendency to push this away, this thought that I'm going to die, to push it to the background of the consciousness. We don't like this thought in our consciousness. So therefore, and the culture, the Western culture especially, is designed to make us forget that we're going to die. It's designed to make us think, to consume, to enjoy. But the Vedic culture, the Varnashrama culture, is exactly the opposite. It is designed to have us live our life in such a way that it scientifically trains us to the point of complete dependence on Krishna and Antya Narayana Smriti, to remember Krishna. Because Nishtayam, Manasthayam, Visha Upasevati, whatever fills it, Sadatat Bhava Bharata, whatever fills our consciousness at the time when we are leaving this world, we will go there. Very scientific. I'm going. Does anyone remember anything else from the purport? Because it was so long ago I read it. It's hard to remember. So therefore, I'll read it again. Please listen carefully. And I'll ask the same question again. The Vedic system, these are Srila Prabhupada's words, his instructions to us. The Vedic system of 4 varnas and 4 ashrams is very scientific, and its entire purpose is to enable one to control the senses. Before entering household life Grihastha ashram, a student is fully trained to become Jitendriya. What does Jitendriya mean? Conquer over the senses. Such a mature student is allowed to become a householder because he was first trained in conquering the senses. Excuse me. Because he was first trained in conquering the senses, he retires from household life and becomes vanaprastha. As soon as the strong waves of youthful life are past, and he reaches the verge of old age at 50 years or slightly more. The strong waves of youthful life. So why is the strong waves of youthful life. So what are the specific characteristics of waves, especially by the ocean? Raise your hands. What's the characteristic of a wave? Not this kind of a wave.
It goes up and it goes down. The senses control our mind.
Yes, good, thank you. Goes up and down, yes. Characteristic of a wave.
They keep coming one after
They keep coming. They are relentless. The waves keep coming again and again. Sometimes the waves are huge, and sometimes they are smaller, but they are continuous. So especially in youthful life, the waves of one's sense desires are sometimes stronger, sometimes weaker, but they are relentless. Therefore, one needs training. Then, after being further trained in Vanaprastha life. What is the training of Vanaprastha life?
Grihastha.
Okay, but what is the specific training and challenge in Vanaprastha life as described in the 7th canto and the end of the chapters, and also in the 11th canto? What is the specific training? So in brahmachari life, the training is obedience and sense control, mind control. Household life, very much to conquer those enemies and to become detached. And in Vanaprastha life, what is the training?
Detachment from family life.
Detachment from family life, but detachment from one's material body. Tapasya. I don't care. Performing such, the way, when you read this in the Bhagavatam, it's frightening what Vanaprasthas have to do. The austerities they perform, the way they dress, the way they eat only the leaves that fall from the trees after they've fallen, dried leaves without spices, no chili. Not possible for those born in Bharatvarsh, especially in some places. Complete austerity, letting the fingernails and the hair and the beard grows and the itchy, and not bathing and wearing tree bark, itchy. I don't care. I don't care. In the summer, surrounding oneself by fire in all the directions, in the summer heat, I don't care. How strong your mental control has to be to perform austerity. The austerities aren't really on the physical platform, they're on the mental platform, because one's mind rebels and says, I will not do this anymore. And then, the purpose of that, when one's mind is controlled, is to completely depend on Krishna. Because one has to be able to control one's mind then, to depend completely on Krishna. Because one will be in the most fearful conditions, and the mind in fear. It's not like you can just think, oh, right now, I think that Krishna should protect me right now. No, it doesn't go through the intelligence in great fear. Just the mind reacts in such an intense way, and one has to be so practiced to depend on Krishna. And then the body, it's falling, you can't breathe. heart. Everything that we take for granted in life, our very body, the fact that I can move, I want to move my hand and it goes up. I want to move my elbow, it goes up. We take these things for granted as if it's automatic, as if it's automatically coming. But it's actually only coming by Krishna's mercy. The most complex arrangements are there to make the simplest things that we take for granted occur. To go like this, it takes so many muscles. And then you ask the question, my desire is to move my hand, but what connects my desire, which is just a thought, to the muscles? What connects? What is the connection between my thought and the muscles that make my hand go up? We do it so automatically. We take it completely for granted. There's the mechanical system, but then who has put this mechanical system together? By chance? And you just mentioned something like that before, Prabhupada, and the word rascal would immediately come from his mouth. It's by chance? By chance? This most complex arrangement? Incredibly complex. It's been organized by chance. When you organize something by chance, you get the traffic in Pune. And if you've ever been to Pune, it makes Delhi traffic look organized. Nothing against Marathis. Is that true, Prabhu? The traffic in Pune? Number one, as far as I'm concerned. So this is all going on, and when your body can't move, and the desire may be still there, and nothing is working, everything you take for granted, everything you depend on, and you can't breathe, and pain, and you're helpless, and you're terrified, one has to be very practiced, and then at that time, one needs the help of Krishna. And at that time, one needs the help of Krishna's devotees more than anything else. And therefore, in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, at the end, Srila Prabhupada's purport describing Parikshit Maharaj's condition, he said when Sukadev came, when the great devotee came, that this is especially to be seen when the devotees come at the time when we are leaving this world. It is especially seen to be recognized as Krishna's special mercy, His special kindness. This is how Krishna's kindness comes to us. Okay. The next verse in purport really to the point. And it is a wonderful verse. It is so wonderful and Prabhupada just explains in such a practical way. Everything in such a practical way. Okay, but I will end here. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for another 5 minutes? Any questions or comments? Our someone is Jitendriya, can control his senses, then he is allowed to enter household life. But if he is Jitendriya, why would he enter household life? Yes? One reason is his mother is like... Yes? Sometimes it is like that. Sometimes dutiful, sometimes his mind not be fully controlled. Maybe his mind isn't fully controlled. Sometimes circumstantially, sometimes in the service it may happen. Like in the case of Priyavrata, sometimes there's perhaps different degrees of being able to control the senses and mind. So that's how I would answer that question. But maybe there's different degrees. It's not either controlled or not controlled. There's so much gray area between. It's different degrees. The only way to fully control the mind is one's mind is fully absorbed in loving thoughts of Krishna. That is the only full control over the mind and the senses. When one's senses are fully engaged in Krishna's service due to spontaneous, natural, loving attraction. So there are varying degrees. And sometimes the teachers, they see the person's capacity and what his nature is, and may have a different recommendation for him. Is that all right? Any other questions?
Hare Krishna.
I can't hear you. Very, come on. Microphone. Just one second.
You mentioned in the class that Vanaprastha is to develop detachment from the body and circling with the fire in the hot sun. Detachment from the body is, I understood, but I couldn't understand. Tolerating the sunlight, the cold is all right, but in the middle of the hot sun, by adding the fire around, why do we, kind of...
What's the need?
Means respecting the body given by Krishna, respecting the body given by Krishna, and maintaining the rules which the body needs to follow. But yes, I felt like why to add the torture to develop detachment?
The question is clear. Why go to such extreme methods? Because this is a gradual process. And it's not specifically and only based on Krishna Bhakti. It's developing by stages detachment. So the Vaishnavas, what to speak of at this particular age where no one has the capacity to do these type of austerities. These are not recommended. Things like this have to be adjusted to make it practical for this age. So it's inconceivable for us to even think like this. If one is using one's body in Krishna's service, then one cares for one's body just as one would care for anything that belongs to one's beloved. But because we tend, in my stage, or we tend to mix my own attachment to my body, for example, with the philosophy of it's meant to be used in Krishna's service, more detachment is actually required. And why is more detachment required? Is because one day my body is going to drop and I'm going to die. Rather, the body is going to. I'm looking for the right words because something has to be alive to die. So I can't use the word the body is going to die because there's no life that the body has independently of the soul. The body is going to drop. one day, and to the degree I'm attached to it, to the degree I will be tortured by the thought and the factual occurrence of the body dropping. So true detachment is required. So what's practical for this age is not that, but true detachment is required. In the Varnashrama system, where it's scientifically organized, so complete detachment would actually occur. I'm not sure if that gets to the exact heart of your question. But Mataji, you don't have to do that. Living in Govardhan or living in Rajasthan is warm enough. And then, sometimes the kings, when they would do this Vanaprastha, they would go with their wives. We read about this in the Bhagavatam. And the pain, when the husband would die, the pain of the wife would be worse than the fire. And they would go into the fire. She would make the fire to burn what remains of the body and then go into it, because it would be more painful for her. So that would mean there was so much detachment, but some attachment was still there. So it's very mysterious, this type of consciousness of these exalted personalities. Okay, last question, if there is a last question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Is it necessary for the
Akashvani.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu? Is it necessary for the Vanaprastha to change his dress to saffron?
You mean the Mataji or a Pitaji? First you have to answer my question before I attempt to answer your question.
No. Is it necessary for the Prabhu to change to saffron dress when he's in the Vanaprastha ashram?
You mean within ISKCON, within Srila Prabhupada's movement?
Yes, Prabhu.
I don't know. I mean, it's not very well established in Ashra, because during Prabhupada's time, everyone was like 20 years old, 30 years old. So it never really came up. In the Bhagavatam, it says that a Vanaprastha should wear fire-colored cloth, if I'm not mistaken, which is like saffron. But the way I look at it is, personally, is one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga, described in the 12th canto, is that everything would be judged externally by the external symptoms only. So, although the wearing of fire-colored cloth or saffron is prescribed, perhaps, in the Bhagavatam, the real essential point is the internal point, is that one should become detached. Because detachment from the body is required to depend fully on Krishna. So let us hold tightly the essential points, because in Kali Yuga one can't even perform the externals fully. And instead of saying, oh, he says he's a Vanaprastha, he's not making it into some type of a food for Brahmagita, let's capture the essence and hold tightly to it. It's the safest. And the externals are meant to support the internals. So not that the externals aren't important, but because this one specifically hasn't been defined by Srila Prabhupada clearly, or in ISKCON, there's no statutes or about it, then hold on to the internal detachment is the essential point. Thank you very much. Very good question. Srila Prabhupada,